Do I have anybody here who's really been keeping up with the Nancy Pelosi China memes? Nancy Pelosi has recently done what I can only describe as memeing on China. Nancy Pelosi has memed on China a little bit. So basically what happened over the last couple of days, Nancy Pelosi, which if you remember is, you know, because of how the line of the presidency works, is the third most powerful person in the country. If we're talking about specifically the presidency, she's third in line for the presidency right after the vice president. So if Biden dies and Harris dies, congratulations, you'll have your first real female president, President Pelosi. But that probably won't happen. So don't worry about that. But Pelosi and a group of her besties in Congress, including some Republicans, decided to take a little vacation to Asia. They did a little East Asian trip. They wanted to see the secrets of the hidden East, and so they wanted to go eastward for our best friends, Korea. Thank you. Japan, a couple other memes over there, but one in particular that got one East Asian friend upset, who got their panties in a twist, was China, because Pelosi was going to visit Taiwan. Now, like high profile American politician has not visited Taiwan for, I think if I remember correctly, it's been like 26 or 40 years, if anybody remembers specifically. It's been quite a long time. It's been a couple decades, and I know that much, since a high profile politician, especially group of politicians from the United States, has gone to Taiwan, really. And so she went, and that made China very upset. At first China was like, yo, you better not go to Taiwan. We'll be really upset. Don't you do it. You know they're not a real country. Don't you do it. And Pelosi was like, I don't know. And it was like a little wishy-washy whether or not she'll go. And then she said that she was going to go. And then boom, she went. She went to speak to the Taiwanese president and the Taiwanese people. Here's a little excerpt from her speech. I'm sorry, headphone users. Prepare your left ear because your right ear will be taking a break for this one.
Madam President, I think it's important to remind some and inform others of how we are here. 43 years ago, with the Taiwan Relations Act, America made a bedrock promise to always stand with Taiwan. And on this strong foundation, we have built a thriving partnership, grounded in our shared values of self-government and self-determination, focused on our mutual security interests in the region and across the world, committed to the economic ties that power prosperity for all of our people.
我们这一次的来访呢，其中一项重点就是要提醒大家并告知大家，43年前我们通过了《台湾关系法》，当时就许下了对台湾非常坚定的承诺，要与台湾站在一起。
So true. They're just like rereading what she said, but in Chinese for them, because they don't speak our garbage tier language. Okay, that's too much work.
的议题，无论是在这个地区还是全世界的共同安全，以及我们必须要保障我们，并且深化我们的经济关系。这个基础，我们
Today our delegation, which I'm very proud, came to Taiwan to make unequivocally clear we will not abandon our commitment to Taiwan, and we are proud of our enduring friendship. And may I mention, they're all co-chairs of this delegation. The chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Mr. Grady Meeks of New York, the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Mr. Takano of California, the vice chair of the Ways and Means Committee, Congresswoman Del Bene of Washington State, the member of the Intelligence Committee and the leader in COVID fight and so many things in the Congress, Congressman Raja Krishnamurti from, I say Illinois, he says Chicago.
It was so nice for a brief moment in time to be able to use both channels. Can you imagine how amazing that would be? Can you only imagine? We actually had a senator show up this year. Yeah, like at high profile. I love Tammy, but I said high profile.
And again, one of our newest members of Congress, serving the diplomat as a diplomat in the State Department before coming, Congressman Andy Kim of not only the Armed Services Committee but also the Foreign Affairs Committee and others. They're very.
Thank you. So she made a good speech, a nice long speech, specifically about how we are not going to separate from Taiwan, and we still are very much committed to Taiwan's to Taiwan's want to be independent from China and to be its own sovereign country outside of Chinese rule. And China didn't like that. Now, we all know that China really, really wants Taiwan back. But I know a lot of us don't know a lot of the history surrounding Taiwan and why it's separate, why China wants it back, and what are the memes surrounding it. And so I want to take this moment for us to, in the legacy of our old friendo, Michael Brooks, who is incredibly worldly leftist, I want to make sure that my chat is somewhat comparable into their understanding of the world. So you know what? It's time to learn a little history about Taiwan. So, Taiwan. You guys know where it is in the world? You guys know where Taiwan is? Huh? Anybody know? Africa. It's a little bit in Africa. Many people are saying this. It's close to Africa. And by close to Africa, I mean in right in between the East and South China Sea. Baby girl is right here. So here's Taiwan, okay? Pretty close to China. All right, pretty close to the Philippines, to Japan. Interesting little place. And this place has been a hotly contested area for geopolitics for an incredibly long time. And China believes that this little island, it's actually a much larger island than I expected, if I'm going to be honest. But anyways, they've wanted this island to be under their control for an incredibly long time. But China has not had direct control over Taiwan for an incredibly long time. And I think longer than a lot of people may realize. China hasn't directly controlled Taiwan since the 1800s, and specifically 1895. So let's look a little bit in the history of Taiwan, because honestly, the history of China and Taiwan being together as like one nation ended quite a while ago. It actually ended with the Qing rule. The Qing rule of Taiwan, which also was like the end of the Chinese rule of Taiwan, ended in 1895 with the Treaty of Shimonoseki, which is where during the Sino-Japanese War, which China lost, and in the treaty for the end of the war, China gave up not only Taiwan, but also some little baby islands, Penghu Islands, which sounds like Penghu Islands. Sino? What? Sino? What? Oh, did I say Shino? Oh, my bad. Anyways, Sino-Japanese War, where the Qing Empire gave away little Penghu Islands and Taiwan. All right. The Japanese ruled it for quite some time. Imperial Japan. They were, doing Imperial Japan things, not being too nice to the indigenous people, using it for infrastructure and built a strong amount of Japanese culture into it. Normal little bit of Japanese imperialism, as they were known to do. They took over Taipei and had like a bunch of steel mills and steel plants and other manufacturing in there that gave Taiwan a kickstart when it became sovereign in its industrial capacity. And exports increased fourfold. 55% of agricultural land was covered by dam-supported irrigation systems. Food production had increased fourfold, and sugarcane production had increased 15-fold between 1895 and 1925, and Taiwan became a major food basket serving Japan's industrial economy. Okay, but that all ended for Japan at the end of World War II. I mean, World War II. It's one of those smaller wars that people don't know too much about. It's kind of like the Sino-Japanese War. Many people may not have heard of it, but a little rundown of World War II. It was a war, and it was bad, and China didn't do too much. But Japan was a real bad boy. Japan was on their worst behavior, if I must be completely honest. They had like almost no chill, and because of that, same with Germany. Same with Korea, that would be happening later, and same with Japan. The powers that won would be carving up these countries for their own personal need. But Japan, when they lost, were like, okay, you got me. All right, fine. I guess the war was bad, I guess. And they had to sign a treaty. All right, they had to sign a treaty giving away concessions to the victors. One of the groups that wanted something from Japan was actually China. We look at this as where is this? I do love Japanese spirit. In 1942, after the United States entered a war against Japan and on the side of China, the Chinese government under KMT, which is a Chinese nationalist party, renounced all treaties signed with Japan before that date and made Taiwan's return to China one of their wartime objectives. All right. This is the Cairo Declaration. That's how you pronounce that, right? In the Cairo Declaration, 1943, Allied powers declared the return of Taiwan, including some little Penghu Islands, to the Republic of China as one of several Allied demands. But that never actually made it into the real thing. So the Treaty of Shimonoseki basically said that Japan was going to, for one, China would have to leave Korea alone. And also, China would have to give up Taiwan and Little Penghu Islands. All right. The Taiwanese Independence Party had been around for a while at that point in time, and they were one of the competing groups when Taiwan was being carved up, and its future for who was going to control them was up in the air, working incredibly hard to make sure that they were going to be able to have any semblance of independence moving forward. Okay. But I want to talk about something really quickly about like what happened after World War II, because this is where a lot of our problems, well, our problems, China's problems come from. The sovereignty of Japan over Taiwan under the 1895 Treaty of Shimonoseki continued until the defeat at the end of World War II. But sovereignty over Taiwan after the war is more difficult to resolve. The 1943 Cairo Declaration by the United Kingdom, China, and the United States seemed to express an intention to return the islands to the ROC, which, remember, this is the Republic of China. So once again, we're talking about when China was in between the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China, which is communist China, modern day China, and old China, like Emperor China, okay? So you're going to see ROC and PRC. PRC means People's Republic of China. ROC is Republic of China. Old China, ROC, New China, PRC. Okay? I'm not going to say it again. I hope you remember. It seemed to express an intention to return the islands to the ROC. At that time, still only the Chinese government. The 1945 Potsdam Proclamation envisioned the same intention. Since neither treaty or other legally binding instrument per se, these documents did not directly transfer sovereignty over the islands. And so the thing is that some of these were things that they wanted to do. Some of these were documents, specifically the document that was written to give Taiwan sovereignty to China, that was never signed. Remember that, I forget what it was necessarily called. Remember the treaty between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, where they wanted to carve out spheres of influence over Europe, and that was like one of Stalin's plans, because he was like, the Nazis are fighting, capitalism and the West are fighting, my two enemies are fighting, I'm not gonna touch this, do not disturb your enemy while they're making a mistake type thing. But that was never signed, but we still talk about how that was one of the intentions. It was one of the Allies' intentions to give Taiwan back to China, but it never actually happened. The multilateral peace treaty of September 1951 did have a legal effect of formally surrendering Japanese sovereignty over Taiwan and the Penghu Islands and other islands, but China was not a party of that treaty. So China wasn't even a part of this treaty where Japan gave up their rights to Taiwan. They weren't at the table whatsoever. And all the other treaties where they wanted to be at the table never got signed and completely sank through either the ROC or the PRC. Moreover, the treaty did not specifically identify the entity that was to inherit Taiwan. That question was not clarified by the bilateral peace treaty of 1952 between Japan and the Republic of China either. So there were a couple of treaties that were signed between Japan and the Allies and Japan and China, but even when China had the opportunity to try to get Taiwan back, they didn't go for it. They didn't sign anything with Japan to be able to get Taiwan back. One of the reasons is because Japan didn't have any sovereignty over Taiwan anymore. They signed it away. But to who? It seems like the answer is kind of nobody. And that kind of brings us to where we are today. which is Taiwan is claiming independence. And honestly, they don't have a really bad legal footing to stand on, which simply recognized Japan's renunciation of the multilateral peace treaty of 1951. Thus, none of the post-World War II treaties explicitly ceded sovereignty over the coveted territories to any specific state or government. Rather, they formally nullified the sovereignty of Japan that was derived from the 1895 Treaty of Shimonoseki. An incredibly interesting meme from back in the day, is it not? Yeah, the Molotov-Ribbentrop, the Molotov-Ribbon Pact? Something like that. It's something along those lines. Has the US ever given up land? Have we given up land? If we have, yeah, Molotov-Ribbentrop, thank you. Yeah, that agreement. I don't think we've ever really given up land. We've kind of traded for it. The Philippines? Yeah, we traded away the Philippines, if that's correct. But mostly we've just gotten land, honestly, especially with like the Paris Agreement? What the fuck is that? That's not the Paris Agreement. What the fuck? The Louisiana Purchase? There we go. That's what I'm thinking of. Like the Louisiana Purchase, and then we got like Alaska, and we have like Puerto Rico, and I was gonna say Somalia. That's not the right country. Samoa. We did also yoink Texas. We did a little yoinky. I'm not gonna lie. We did basically. We kind of yoinked it a little bit. Virgin Islands. We've given up the Virgin Islands, right? That's not American, is it not? We splank Hawaii too. We did yoink and splank Hawaii, but Hawaii is now just like a state. With all of this being said, let's move into the future a little bit. China for a long time has claimed that Taiwan is a part of mainland China. A lot of people in Taiwan don't necessarily view it that way. All right. If we take a look at this, 76% of Taiwanese people believe Taiwan is already independent under the status quo. So this is an important thing to look at when we look at, Taiwan independency surveys that are taken in Taiwan, because the vast majority of people in Taiwan, it's like if you polled America and asked them if you need American sovereignty. What are you talking about? We're already a sovereign nation. So that's what a lot of people in Taiwan already believe. So if you ask them, do you believe Taiwan should like vote or move forward in becoming independent, you'll get a couple of mixed answers. Most of the time it'll come up as like a majority. I haven't seen a survey from Taiwan saying that they don't want to be independent by a majority, but 76% already believe that they are independent. Just typically in how they interpret a lot of those surveys is, should they become more independent? And that typically means cutting off China almost completely economically, which is not something a lot of them want to do, right? According to the results, 75.9% of respondents believe that maintaining the status quo already equates to independence, de facto independence, and therefore there is no need to change the country's name in the Constitution. A minority, 14.4% of respondents believe that only through amending the Constitution can Taiwan truly enjoy independence, de jure independence. Of the respondents, 9.7% did not provide a clear answer. So this is very much remain that way and not be put under Chinese rule. Same with when it comes to Hong Kong, but a little bit differently. Right? Because their histories are just different as well. China's never been able to get a good grip on Taiwan. It's like he's like an oiled up pig on an ice rink, you know? He's hard to get your hands around. You can barely nab him up. Okay? It's very difficult. Yeah, Taiwan is one greasy little boy. All right? Very hard to catch. But China has been doing their best around the world to get other countries to not recognize Taiwan as a real country. And they've been very happy that us as Americans don't take an incredibly strong, explicit stance on Taiwan that often, even though we do give them military support and things along those lines. And the current president of Taiwan is working with Japan and working with Korea to help build a military alliance to help protect themselves from China. And China every once in a while likes to do basically what Russia does to Ukraine, which is fly a couple jets over their territory, beat their chest and say you belong to us, and like all of those things, right? It's basically the same, nearly the same thing. Checked it a little fascism as a treat. Yeah, but like, isn't that like the early 90s? Didn't everyone basically do a little fascism as a treat? I mean, people had some pretty bad views back then. It wasn't too great. Taiwan took a democratic turn in the 1980s. Yes, so in the 80s was a big democratic step forward for Taiwan. Now they have free and fair open elections, and they have a president and everything. Very pog if I say so myself. Okay? So Pelosi going to Taiwan has been a very upsetting thing for China, and they are not happy with it whatsoever. While she was still on her besties only Asia vacation trip, she took a stop in Japan, where she spoke on this a little bit more.
You may be more interested in, again, what the Chinese did while we were traveling, and we have said from the start that our representation here is not about changing the status quo here in Asia, changing status quo in Taiwan. It's about, again, the Taiwan Relations Act, the U.S.-China policy, all of the pieces of legislation and agreements that have established what our relationship is, to have peace in the Taiwan Straits and to have the status quo prevail.
We didn't mean to scare you, Japan. It's a little bit of we didn't mean to scare you, Japan. And also, wait, is that Clyburn? Clyburn was on the besties only trip to Asia? What the heck? It's a little bit of we didn't mean to scare you, Japan, but Japan is also on the side of Taiwan. Remember, Japanese politicians also make their way to Taiwan every now and again.
They may try to keep Taiwan from visiting or participating in other places, but they will not isolate Taiwan by preventing us to travel there. We've had high-level visits, senators in the spring, a bipartisan way, continuing visits, and we will not allow them to isolate Taiwan. They are not doing our travel schedule.
Pretty strong stance from Pelosi. Basically, fuck China. They can't tell us what to do. Kinda based. I also say fuck China a little bit. They do be posting giga cringe every now and again. All right. And the Taiwanese people, they do want to be free. Let them go. Let my people go. Let my people go. Ain't that right? Let my Taiwan go. Mr. Xi, tear down this wall. Uhuru means freedom in Swahili, dude. That's what we need to understand. Uhuru means freedom in Swahili, and I think the more we understand that, the better this world can become. That's what I think personally. All right? Tear down this great wall. If China wants to end the world over acknowledging reality, that's on them. True, but they're also like not trying to end the world. A lot of people are saying that this is going to kick off like another world war. Nah, it's not. We'll be okay. China's going to be upset like they always do, and we'll be fine. That's how it works. Biden's national security advisor also spoke on Pelosi's visit. All these guys look kind of weird. Is it just me? There's something about these guys. He's got like the Mark Zuckerberg forehead going on. It may just be me. I may just be being racist. I'm not sure. I may be being powerful people racist. I'm not sure. Squidward head ass.
Greg Sullivan, thank you very much for joining us. So much to ask you about. Let's start with Taiwan. There are a number of China experts who are looking at Speaker Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, and they're saying it's not only provocative, but it's dangerous. Do you think it is dangerous?
Well, first, Judy, thanks for having me. Speaker Pelosi's decision to go to Taiwan was, of course, a decision she had every right to make. And in fact, a Speaker of the House has previously traveled to Taiwan without incident, and members of Congress travel to Taiwan all of the time. It doesn't signal a change in U.S. policy. It doesn't threaten China in any way. So for China to turn around and try to turn this into some kind of crisis or use it as a pretext to take aggressive action around Taiwan, that's on China. Now, from the United States' perspective, what we intend to do is indicate to China and to the world, we're not looking to escalate, but we will, of course, continue to assert our right to defend our interests, to support Taiwan's self-defense, and to continue to operate as we have operated in the Western Pacific for decades. That's how we're approaching it. We hope that China will, in fact, take an approach that demonstrates restraint rather than overreaction.
So another really interesting thing is you'll hear a lot of people talk about this, like America is only working in their own interests. Yeah. Yes. Hello, welcome to Baby's First Understanding of Geopolitics. Wow, they really think it's an incredible dunk to say, you think America's helping Taiwan out of the kindness of their own heart? You don't think we have our own interests? Yeah, we have our own interests. Yeah, 100%. It is good for us to be close with Taiwan, especially during the pandemic, especially when it comes to the microchip and semiconductor shortage going on. Taiwan is the premier, world's largest producer of semiconductors in the entire world. Yeah, of course we have our own interests in Taiwan. We protect Taiwan. They give us semiconductors at a reasonable rate. That seems perfectly fine. That happens all of the time. China has their own reasons for defending North Korea. That happens as well. Man. And for supporting Russia in their aggression against Ukraine. Countries working in their own self-interest is not interesting. It's not a slam dunk. If you actually think that, you are a part of Baby's First Understanding of Geopolitics. I'm sorry. And simply because a country is working in their own self-interest doesn't mean it's instantly a bad thing. If Canada got invaded, we would help Canada in their invasion. Why? Because we're good people who like doing good things? Nah, because it's in our own self-interest. That's how geopolitics works. Okay? We don't want somebody to our north to get invaded. That's pretty bad for us. It's pretty bad. Or we would invade Canada. Yeah, but nobody would help them then. Anyways, with that being said, I think it is a good thing for Nancy Pelosi to go to Taiwan. In days where China is like incredibly complacent and is still creeping on Taiwan's borders, I think is an incredible thing that we show some strength and say, yo, we're not trying to fight you. This doesn't hurt you, but we're going to help out. We're going to help out Taiwan, and we're going to go visit. We're going to say hi to our besties, because Taiwan are our besties. You know what? Not only is Taiwan our besties, Taiwan is our people. And once again, Mr. Xi, let my people go. Let my people go. Some people have seen some conservatives get really mad about this, but honestly, a lot of the big conservatives don't really mind that much.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham is a member of the Judiciary Committee, and he joins us now. So Nancy touched down in Taiwan. All hell broke loose. The Chinese are upset. Yeah. Biden's nervous. What is really going on, Senator?
Well, number one, I'm glad she went. I mean, we can't let China tell us where to go and what to do. So the idea of her going to visit Taiwan is a good thing in my view, because the Chinese Communist Party is no friend of freedom and democracy. The one China policy hasn't changed. But the point you make about members of Congress and their families trading stocks, you're dead right. So
that's how he goes on to some other stuff. Trading stocks bad. Anyways, saddest thing, worst day in the world. The people who you hate make a decent point. China is not democratic. China is very illiberal. We'll talk about that a little later in the stream, especially when we go over a CPAC watch. All right. But I will tell you this. Graham and Jesse Waters hate China because they're racist. We hate China because they're illiberal, undemocratic, and fake communist. We are not the same. All right. We are not the same. In some like small suburb in Ohio, if I asked the Republican senator, do you believe that family should have health care? Both me and the Republican senator would say yes. Does that mean that we both have an agreement on how to do that? No. And we have no agreement on anything besides that. All right. That's it. That's where our agreements end. And so on the surface level memes, yeah, we couldn't agree on some things. We both think it's good for Pelosi to go. But once again, Lindsey Graham is somebody who also believes in Donald Trump's idea and a right-wing conservative idea that we need to stop China from having any influence anywhere. And what that means is, and we've done a story on this before, I'm not sure if we've done a dedicated video on this, but some frogs may remember that we talked about this during the Trump presidency. Him and TPUSA and Fox News were all doing a long series. They've already forgotten a long series on how China was using his influence and how Chinese students who came abroad from mainland China were using Chinese on campus. Hey, learn Mandarin Chinese. Hey, here's like a little like here's like a Chinese student exchange program to the United States. They basically said that was all of the students who came here were agents of Xi Jinping, here to China-ify our universities and turn our poor young squishy brain learning baby university school students into speaking Mandarin Chinese, so they can infiltrate us and overcome our country from the inside out and devour us, and soon we'll all be eating we'll all be eating Panda Express and General Tso's chicken, and that's basically it, right? That's basically what they said. It sounds kind of based. The whole like saying that your average Japanese person is an agent of the Chinese government here to overthrow American democracy and our government, I don't think that's really cool, Dr. Tso. So it's like it's TSO. It's so stinky. So that's how that works. I don't believe in that. That shit is insane. Not that part, the other part. If we forget that part, the other part is giga based. Anyways, some people think that this is going to start like a World War III or something. Nah, China isn't even preparing to invade Taiwan. Our intelligence already knows this. Unlike when it came to Ukraine, where we did know that they were going to be invading Ukraine in sometime soon. Here's a little political meme on it.
I think what we're looking at longer term is a much more hair trigger Chinese response to any type of perceived U.S. infringements of Chinese assertions of sovereignty and territorial control over Taiwan. We've kind of turned a corner in this relationship, and we're heading toward a less stable and more riskier place.
America's determination to preserve democracy here in Taiwan and around the world remains ironclad.
Speaker Pelosi's visit to Taiwan has come at a time of particularly high tensions between the U.S. and China. The Chinese government has been alleging for a long time now that the U.S. government is seeking to change its relationship with Taiwan, which is embedded in these decade-old documents called the Three Communiques.
It is a serious violation of the One China principle and the provisions in the three Sino U.S. joint communiques.
The Speaker's visit is totally consistent with our long-standing One China policy. Nothing has changed about our One China policy, which is guided, of course, by the Taiwan Relations Act, 3 joint U.S. PRC communiques, and the 6 assurances.
What we're seeing is a calibrated rollout of sort of manufactured rage about this visit. The Chinese government wants to communicate to Taiwan and to the United States that it is willing to undertake and to threaten potential military activity in the Taiwan Strait to push back against what it sees as moves toward Taiwan independence.
So, a big problem for China is, as time goes on, as the decades, and now over a century has passed, over 100 years has passed since China has had direct territorial control over Taiwan. 100 years plus. They're starting to get antsy, and they're upset because Taiwan is increasing their relationships around the world independently from China, and they're moving on to be just perfectly fine, situated, healthy, safe, and protected country, and recognized and respected country outside of China and their territorial control, and that's making them incredibly upset. They can't really do much about it, but this is one of the big reasons why when we talked about this near the beginning of the Ukraine war, where China was moderating its news organizations' talks about Ukraine a lot, and sometimes even not talking about it at all, for the main reason China's reaching for anything that they can to try to get Taiwan back, which is incredibly cringe. Taiwan wants to be alone by themselves. The more time goes on, people in Taiwan have moved on from China. They are they're almost completely economically independent from China, and they would like to just move on with their life. And even in Taiwan, there are a lot of people who are incredibly wary about getting more economically close to China, for the main reason because they think that China is going to leverage that closeness in economic power to closeness in geopolitical and territorial and political power, which can be incredibly bad for Taiwan's long-term goal of remaining a sovereign, democratic, and well-off, financially stable country that China does not want them to be. With that being said, the White House press secretary, who I forgot existed. Who else forgot that like the White House press secretary existed, right? Like after the 17 White House press secretaries that Trump went through, I completely forgot that a White House press secretary was even real, right? Jen Psaki? Nah, but like there's another one. There's another one. Wait, isn't Psaki gone? Isn't Psaki not a part of wait a second. Like at the beginning of Biden's presidency, people were like, oh yeah, Jen Psaki. But yeah, she's gone. She's gone. Yeah, Jen Psaki be giga gone. Jen Psaki does not exist anymore. Yeah, she left in April. See? She's now an MSNBC contributor, as it goes. She's a mommy. She does have children. That's true. I believe she has 2 kids. Of course she is. Of course. But we're left with this lady, whoever the fuck this chick is.
Does the White House think Speaker Pelosi bears any blame for the rupture? And do you worry that the relationship with China could devolve further?
So, and you've heard us say this before, the Speaker had every right. It is her right to have gone to Taiwan. Members of Congress make those decisions. We do not tell them what they can or cannot do or where they can travel. We have said this many times before. We provide a full, thorough briefing when they do travel. And so, again, there was no reason to have this escalation that we're seeing from China. You know, it is fundamentally irresponsible.
She looks tired. Yeah, but wouldn't you be tired if you have to deal with OAN, Newsmax, and Fox News and other like weirdo press reporters day in and day out and have to answer their dumbass questions? I know it would make me upset. I know I'd be tired. I'm tired even just looking at these people. Good Lord. We got to talk about OAN because they got dropped by their television provider. And there was a OAN or Newsmax talking head contributor who begged liberals to watch the show so they didn't go underwater and have to cancel their show. It was really, really funny. Anyways, the escalation that they're talking about is that China has, after Pelosi went to Taiwan and left, China has decided to throw a freaking hissy fit. They've decided to throw a tantrum, and they're stomping their feet and pissing and shitting themselves. And they've been doing military drills on the coast of mainland China near Taiwan. They've been shooting rockets over. They've been basically doing what North Korea does to South Korea and Japan, like shooting rockets over them. They did the thing that they normally do, which is they take jets and then fly into Taiwan airspace until they get locked on by a radar. And Taiwan notices and they hear that they've been locked on, and then they turn around and then go back home. They've just done that like 3 more times than usual. Really? They fired a couple of rockets that did a little dance and then fell into the ocean, killing a couple hundred fish. That's basically all they've been doing recently. But also, they're giving America the cold shoulder. All right, they're treating us like a bad boyfriend because China has halted all U.S. cooperation on a range of issues. They're not talking to us. They're not taking Dark Brandon's calls. OK, it's not happening. They're sick and tired of us. And so basically, we'll be like, hey, yo, what's wrong? You okay? You mad? You mad? And they'll be like, I'm not mad. And we're like, you're sure? And then they take a pause and they go, I just think it's really funny that that's basically what they've been giving to us so far. And it's not cute. I have to say, it's not cute. Relations between the world's 2 large on a range of critical issues, from talks of climate crisis to dialogue between their militaries following Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. The declaration of a series of countermeasures came as Beijing, for a second day, staged massive military drills surrounding the island of Taiwan and also announced sanctions against Nancy Pelosi herself. So just so you know, Nancy Pelosi has now been sanctioned. She can no longer buy her 17 cubic tons of Chinese butternut squash ice cream from Taiwan anymore after her provocative actions of going to eat like a konomiyaki or like takoyaki on like a Taiwan like street vendor or something. That's what we call a provocative action. Many people are saying this. So now The sanctions would also target Pelosi direct relatives. So it's not even just Pelosi. It's Nancy Pelosi's like daughter, you know, that really annoying chick who pretends like she knows anything about anything and who really hates Bernie Sanders. So that bitch can't go to China either. It's really funny. Pelosi insists on sneaking away from Taiwan, seriously interferes in China's international affairs, seriously undermines China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, seriously tramples on the One China principle, and seriously threatens the peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, China said. So yes, they are pissing and shitting their pants. No more ice cream. No, dude. No, it's so sad. Taiwan's defense ministry said it had scrambled jets to warn away 29 Chinese aircraft in its air defense zone on Friday, and a total of 68 Chinese military aircraft and 13 naval ships had conducted missions. The foreign ministry of Taipei also reported it had declared a massive number of cyber attempts against its websites throughout Thursday into Friday morning. So basically what China is doing is they're sending little hack squads. Xi Jinping is overseeing hack squads to go turn Taipei's like traveling website into poop emojis or some shit like that. Right? They have sent in the cyber assassins to destroy Taiwan from the inside out. Thankfully, they are prepared for these types of attacks, mostly because they are very aware of what China has been doing. These little like sneak attacks. They're basically doing the international equivalent of a ding dong ditch. So basically, just so we all know, to bring it into you understand like how this is working out, China is ding dong ditching. They're throwing eggs at Taiwan's windows and throwing toilet paper in Taiwan's front yard tree and like going off on Twitter about how angry they are with Nancy Pelosi going to visit Taiwan, which is, as everybody knows, it's an own independent country. Xi Jinping and Biden also had a long discussion where basically what happened is that Xi Jinping said, "You're playing with fire," and Dark Brandon said,
"Say, Jack, you ever been to those Apple manufacturing sites? Do they still have nets?"
And so basically that's the only thing that's really been going on between those two. China's begun a series of live fire military drills in the water surrounding Taiwan. So yeah, they're just running around in circles around Taiwan. They're just doing this over and over and over and over again. Japan's excessive economic zone, and it said had at least 5 missiles that landed on Thursday. So yeah, China is sending missiles from these areas and the Penghu Islands. Oh wait, my bad. These are the Penghu Islands. These are different islands. These are the Penghu Islands. They're sending them like over here. They're doing drills over here, dropping missiles over here. So they're basically doing the geopolitical version of I'm not touching you. 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 They're babies. They're actual children. They're taking a page out of Russia's playbook on this one. And they're very, very upset. They're very mad. They're pissing and shitting their pants, I must say. But I want to take a look on some other things that they stopped talking about. Climate change is one. So basically they're like, we're fine if the world catches on fire and burns. We're fine if our forests dry up and wither because you guys said that Taiwan was real. So basically we're okay with the world going to shit because Taiwan is ours, please. These measures are going to decrease the chance of the US and China to find a much needed Morbius. A defense expert said the two most powerful states are now unable to talk to one another in a productive manner. Wrong. China is unable to talk to people in a productive manner. America is perfectly able to talk to people in a productive manner. China cannot. They physically, it's impossible for them to. They can't do it. Earlier, the U.S. condemned China's launch of ballistic missiles around Taiwan during its live fire as an overreaction. We have to like talk China down from shitting their pants, and having to tell them to calm down time and time again because they don't want to just act normal for 2 whole seconds. Even Japan had to come out and tell China to stop. One moment. So China missile drills around Taiwan, a threat to regional security, says Japan Prime Minister. And so basically what's been happening, right, is that as we looked at here, okay, as we looked at here, you see these missiles? These missiles that landed here are coming up on Japanese territory. Like all the way up here, these are starting to come up on Japanese like water and trade territory that they have with Taiwan to China, to Korea, and also the Philippines. And so they're like, you need to quit this shit before you sink one of our fresh shipments of Demon Slayer Funko Pops. Okay, I swear to the Lord, G, if you sink a ship full of our fucking Naruto Funko Pops, it's on. You don't know what you've done. But China, they're doing a little bit of trolling. They're doing a little bit of trolling after they get memed on. It's called we do a little trolling, okay? They're sending big, massive dumps. And so basically that's where we are at the moment. China having a hissy fit and banning Nancy Pelosi and her family from coming back to China. I don't think that she really had any plans to go there. Some conservatives getting mad at Dark Brandon for allowing Nancy Pelosi to leave the country. Nancy Pelosi basically pretending this shit has never happened, and Japan and Korea are starting to get upset because China's dropping missiles in their pond. And all of this simply because China wants to get back a territory that it hasn't had control over for over 100 years, coming up on almost 2 centuries. And somebody tell me why this is America's fault again. Can I know that? I'd like to know how this is America's fault.